far as practice for today, which, it'll be kind of a walkthrough, Q Lake, he won't be here. He's feeling sick, but hopefully it's just a quick little bug. BY, we're going to be smart with his knee. Emmanuel Forbes will be limited with his shoulder. Everybody else will be good to go.
Coach, looking back on the last game, how much have you looked at you might have wanted to run the ball more and how that's going to be an advantage all the way through?
You talking about against the Bears? Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I thought, hey, better late than never, right? So, I think our guys did a good job executing. We were at our best when we had to be. There was a lot of things that we can learn from, and we'll have to be on the screws and be sharper throughout, starting with myself, if we expect to do what we want to do.
When you were playing a team for the third time, Sean, division obviously, how much do you have to change, like formations with plays that you like, things to disguise what you want to do that maybe they got to look the first couple times?
Yeah, no, it's a great point. I think you want to be careful not to chase ghosts. It is about, good execution, good fundamentals. They're a great team, and they're great in all three phases. We'd like to think when we're humming and we're at our best, we're pretty good too. And so you are aware of those things, but you don't want to do it at the detriment of allowing guys to be able to go execute and play the way that they're capable of. And we've been in this situation a couple times where, in the 21 season, we played the Niners in the NFC Championship, and then we played Seattle actually a third time in the COVID year. So it's been similar where we've played two playoff teams, or two divisional teams in the playoffs, but it's going to be a great opportunity for us. We're excited.
Sean, you look at the Week 11 game, that was Matthew Stafford's lowest yardage output. The Week 16 game, his most. Were there significant adjustments made, or is that maybe just how the game?
I think each game is its own separate entity. I think you got to be totally present. You got to play your best in those 3.5-hour windows. There's a lot of reasons for either or. Matthew did a great job early, I thought, in both games, and give them credit. It was unique where we just didn't have a lot of snaps off in that first game. But they are excellent defensively, and so we know we have tremendous respect for this group. We know what it's going to take, and those games, you use them as inventory, like what Gerard was just asking, but every single play and every single game is its unique own entity, and, we got to be able to handle that accordingly.
Matthew talked about having some difficulty just adjusting protections of the line of scrimmage because of the noise in Chicago. Seattle's another tough environment. Do you make any adjustments in that regard?
Yeah, without diving too much into the tactical stuff, I think part of what I was kind of alluding to the other day is how many layers are you putting on top of, it's one thing to have the play call, and I think there was some instances where, not some, there was definitely some instances where, you could be better in terms of the clarity for our players to be able to go play and execute. And so it's going to be an outstanding atmosphere and environment, but we can't afford to have some of those things, and that's where, we as coaches have to make sure, all right, are we providing the opportunity for our guys to go play fast, free, and physical, but also, not just, run wasted plays, because they do such a great job. So you're always finding that good balance, and that's something that we've worked pretty hard about. And fortunately, we were able to learn without it having to cost us of ending our season the other day.
How do you think?
One thing you mentioned was that he was catching the ball. Yarb said that he was hooking the ball in and not just running with it. How have you seen him work on that?
Well, I think the first thing is the accountability. I've heard him talk to you guys about one of the areas of focus and concentration. He's had all the success the first couple of years, but consistently catching the football. Hey, what's the job of a receiver, especially in the pass game? Get open and catch the football. And he's always had great natural hands. Sometimes those guys that have the most natural hands can take it for granted, where you look to catch transition before you look it in all the way. My dad used to tell me stories about Jerry Rice. His dad was a bricklayer, and he's dropping his brother's dropping bricks down, and if he dropped it, he'd drop it on his brother's head. So he would always look that ball in, try to read the writing on the ball was the way that he would try to really be able to kind of have that heightened focus and concentration. But you'll hear Yarb say it all the time. You catch the ball with your eyes. And I think he's done a great job with that focus and concentration while not allowing it to take away from the run after the catch, which is an elite trait of his.
Can you speak to the ways in which Kam Curl affects the game?
Say that again.
Can you speak to the ways in which Kam Curl affects
so
the game?
many ways. He's obviously excellent in the pass game. I think he's got a great understanding with the concept trigger. You look at the play that he made the other day, it was unbelievable. I think he's got a great feel for, when he is part of the run fits and just being able to aggressively close space, long stride, short stride, shuffle and shoot. Can activate him as a blitzer. So he's a versatile piece. I thought he was instrumental in how well we played defensively the other day. He's a freaking stud, and what an unbelievable play by him when we had to have it. That was competitive greatness at its finest.
How does Davante Adams to the
What's up, Vinny? How you doing, man? This must be a big game, huh? Go.
How much has Davante been to this?
He's meant so much, Vinny, and he's done so many different things that, obviously the stats and what he's done in the red zone, but just the production. And I've mentioned this before. There's a lot of stuff that doesn't go down on the stats that moves our offense forward with the amount of PIs, contact fouls that he's ended up, moving our offense forward, but that doesn't necessarily always go down on the stat sheet. He elicits attention that opens other things up, but also he's a phenomenal leader. I mean, he's got so much wisdom. He's willing to share and pour into guys. I think he's added a swag and just an overall charisma and presence, and he's been huge for us.
John, how details that matter the most in a game like this? Obviously, every game detailed for a game like this.
Yeah, I think it's just playing each snap, being totally present, playing one snap after the next, not allowing yourself to get too high or too low. And I think every single snap represents an opportunity to do one of two things: maintain the momentum or snatch it right back. I think, our guys have done a good job of that, but you got to be ready to just be totally present, lock in, and have the competitive stamina to be able to do right a little bit longer. That's consistent with every game, but obviously the stakes are higher and the opponent is really special. And so, it's always about us first and foremost, but we know what it's going to take, to be able to try to deliver in a, hostile environment against a team that's as complete as there is in this league.
Sean, there's a clip that came out after the game of your speech heading into overtime about doesn't matter what happened, just we're going to win this game. I know that's the job, but it seems easier said than done after a play like Caleb had just made. So where did you learn how to really reset that way towards the messages?
Yeah, it's I don't know that I think I've seen great examples. My dad's the best leader that I've ever seen, and I think the most important thing is you trust your gut and you immediately address it right away. I think that was a play where you're like, what the hell just happened? And I think it was important for us to be able to reset, and I thought our guys did that, and it wasn't like the overtime went exactly ideal either. That was what I was so impressed with is, that's why I was kicking myself after the game. That 3rd and 1 play, I'm thinking, man, if that ends up being the play that costs us, because I didn't put us in a great spot, I mean, that would be a rough offseason. And so, fortunately, defense just kept making them snap it one more time. Kam Curl makes a great play because, that was a good back and forth where it was competitive after we had to punt it away. And then once we got that ball back after the pick for Kam, I thought the offense did a nice job being able to get themselves in field goal position. But as it relates to that, sometimes you just have a feel of, all right, hey, where are we at? What's the most important thing? And let's do the next right thing. And our guys did that. I don't think it had anything to do with the speech, but, Dave Ragone showed me that this morning. I was cold. I could barely scream right there. It was so damn cold right there.
And on top of that, I was going to ask you, Nate, what Nate said, how much of this team and what they've been tested throughout the season with Stafford's back injury and obviously the 5 losses played into that moment and coming back and staying calm?
I think what's been reflected is that we've been, strengthened through our scars. I think you look at it, and you guys have asked me about it. There was a handful of games that we had, or a few games that we had, where you maintain a lead, and then they come back, and then you're not able to kind of make the plays that are necessary to be able to finish it. Well, that hasn't been the narrative in each of our first 2 playoff games. And so don't know exactly how this game's going to unfold, but I do think our guys have become more resilient. I think there's a resolve. I think there's a mental toughness and a fortitude that's necessary. And I've been really proud of those guys because it is about how you finish. You can't win the game until the 4th quarter, and last week's instance until overtime. And so, I love this group. I think they've used these scars the right way.
What stands out for you in terms of Stafford in games, specifically in Seattle, since he's been with you guys? And the second part, unrelated, what went into the thinking of starting Roger McCreary over Forbes?
Yeah, so you knew you were going to get your question in. It's a lot of competition today, huh? So you're going to get 2 in there. I think the first thing is whether it's at Seattle or in general, Matthew is always present. He does such a great job with the command, the overall ownership. It's why he's regarded the way that he is, and he's so special, and we feel so fortunate to have him lead the way. But I think overall, just that command, that confidence, that poise, that ability to love those pressure-filled moments, I think that gives a calm in the midst of some of those chaotic moments. And I think that resonates with his teammates, and it creates a belief that's not exclusive to the offense. That's our whole football team, coaching staff included. And so very fortunate to have that. really what we were looking at is, we wanted to be able to play, all of those corners. We had the mindset to be able to play 4 corners. Forbes got his shoulder early on in the game. There were some different things that we liked that Roger provided. I thought he did a really good job in some instances against Carolina. And so Aubrey has a good feel for being able to rotate those 4. Forbes got his shoulder, but I thought, Roger did a really nice job. Obviously, Jacoby was outstanding, and I thought D. Will had a really good game as well. So if that answers your question, that was kind of the thinking there.
How do you balance coaching this week a prolific offense versus a prolific defense, the execution versus not making mistakes?
Yeah, I think the first thing is we can't beat ourselves. Before we even try to attempt to do what we're capable of doing and what we want to try to do against a phenomenal defense, let's make sure we take care of our own house. We do the things that are necessary in terms of our overall operation and in being able to handle some things that we didn't do as good a job of. And like I told you guys, that's a collective, but those are all things that we can fix, and we can't afford to make those same mistakes that we made last week if we expect to try to be able to advance against this outfit. And so, and then it's about, after the ball is snapped, let's strain, let's understand how good these guys are, and let's, do a great job of just fighting our ass off through the cycle of the snap, because that's what's going to be required.
Sean, there was...
Sean, you're 2-0 in these NFC Conference Championships in your career. You talked about execution, staying in the moment, staying present, not being yourself. You also talked about luck and those 50-50 balls when things going your way. What have you learned from those past NFC Championship games to, make that luck fall in your favor games like this if it's even possible?
Yeah, it's
what's your favorite memory?
Yeah, I would say this. I definitely don't know how to make luck go in my way. If you have an answer to that, let me know. I'd love to hear that. But I think what we've tried to do a really good job of, Michael, is really just controlling the things that we can control, having the wisdom and the perspective to let's lean into the things that give us the best opportunity to have successful outcomes. Let's spend our physical, emotional, and mental energy on the things that we can control and not waste our time on the things that we can't. Sometimes, it was like I was telling you guys, really fortunate the weather died down. Mevis is as calm as it gets, but, that was the football gods smiling on us for the 42-yarder to be able to end the game. My favorite memories are the shared experiences after you achieve a goal. There's a lot of moments within those games. Obviously, one that comes to mind in the NFC Championship a couple years ago, Aaron being able to force that, then T. Howard makes the pick. But I thought, we go down 10 in that game, and the resolve and the ability to stay present. We had to come from behind, and guys, everybody had a hand in being able to get that done. But what I remember the most is the enjoyment of doing something special with people that you care about, and the relationships that are built in the midst of the journey. I think what you try to do a much better job of is enjoying the journey. I don't know that I always did that. Sometimes you look back and you're like, man, I really wish I would have taken that in and understood what a blessing it is to even be in these opportunities, lean into it, try to have the right vibe. But those are the things that you remember is, Whitworth and Matthew. I remember those guys hugging, and, I get in there and they drill and scratch my nose afterwards, and I couldn't have cared less, where normally, man, I'd be like, what the hell, man, you hit my nose. And so those are some things off the cuff that I remember.
Sean, there was a moment post-game where you and Matthew both shared ownership in some of the challenging moments for the offense on Sunday immediately post-game. Just what do you appreciate about him offering that, and how does that help your guys' relationship as a play caller?
Well, I think any great leader that I've ever been around, and Matthew is a perfect illustration of that, there's extreme ownership and there's accountability. And I think you can always really be able to say, all right, first and foremost, let's look at what I can do to try to help, put ourselves in position to do my job to the best of my ability, and how that helps the collective. And that's where, I feel like, I'm not playing, but some of the decisions and situations and circumstances you're putting guys in, you can absolutely be better. I expect to be better. But that's what guys love about Matthew. I mean, you'll never see a guy, when you look at the way Matthew handles himself, that, isn't an excuse maker. I've heard it said before, I think excuses are tools of the incompetent. And Matthew is the furthest thing from that. He's got great ownership, and I think that's why people want to follow him, is because of the way that he handles, stays humble in the great moments, which he sure has had a handful of those. And then in the moments that we can be better, he owns it, and now we can move on, and he's a freaking stud.
Matthew, similar to what I just asked Sean about, that post-game moment you guys had, kind of sharing that accountability with some of the tough moments the offense had on Sunday. Just on the other side of it, what do you appreciate about him, sharing that with you? And kind of like I said, how does that help your guys' relationship is?
Yeah, I think the coolest thing is just the honesty that we have with each other, whether things go the way we want them to or not. How can we fix them? How can we be better? How we communicate better as an offense and then ultimately play better. So we've had that since I've been here. I appreciate the hell out of it. Not always the case in this league. And so I hope he feels that from me, that I'm accountable to the decisions I make, the throws I make, all those kind of things, and to our team. So I know he is for us. So it's a fun thing. It's a fun partnership.
Matthew, when you have such a high prolific offense in yours going up against a great defense, is it a balance between execution versus mistake this week in practice and coaching and teaching?
Yeah, I mean, I think once you get out there, we got to go out there and play like we always do, right? Try to play fast, try to play physical, play aggressive, and we got to go execute. That's what it's going to take. You're going up against a great defense, in their home environment where it's really difficult to play, and we've done it. A couple times already this year, played these guys, and I'm sure they'll have something different for us, like it always is the case. But how do we adapt? How do we continue to execute and play at a high level, and go out there and see what happens?
How do you feel like you've played in games in Seattle since you've been with the Rams? And is there anything that stands out? Any moments from any of those games that stand out?
You're trying to test my memory here. I feel like solid. The first time we played there when I was here was a Thursday nighter, I believe. We did a nice job, came away with the win there. I was out the next year, and then obviously the one D-Rob, ended it in the walk-off in overtime, which was a great play. And then last past time we obviously lost it. Didn't play as up to our standard in some areas, and could had chances to finish that game. So it didn't. But it's always a great environment. Great environment. Their fans do a great job. It's a big test playing against their team. We look forward to the opportunity. We're present and understanding what this one means, but at the same time, just attacking it like every other week.
You talked about some of the difficulties adjusting at the line of scrimmage, like protections at the line of scrimmage in Chicago, going into another really good environment in Seattle. What adjustments can you make in that area ahead of this game?
Yeah, just have to communicate, at a high level, and that's. Both myself, everybody up front, our backs, everybody. It takes everybody. When you go into an environment like that, or environment that we're going into here on Sunday, in Seattle, everybody's got to be on the same page and communicate. That's what offense is all about. You got to have 11 people working as one. And there were a couple instances where we were off, the other night, and learn from it, continue to move on, find a way to be better, and make those opportunities count.
How do you find a way to be better?
Yeah, I think it's just going out here and kind of restarting where we are and just say, okay, what's the best stuff that we do? What makes us as an offense a good offense when we're playing well? Well, that's our communication, that's our technique, it's our effort, all those kind of things. And you just continue to harp on the fundamentals, the basics of playing football at a high level, and then, kind of let your talents go from there.
Your second one of these.
Playoff games. Is there anything you feel like you've learned about this group that you didn't already know?
Yeah, I mean, it's a resilient group. We found ways to win it. Whether that be, a big play here or there on offense or defense, special teams, whatever it is, found ways to win games where there were, frankly, a couple times earlier in the season where I felt like we may have played better on paper and didn't find a way to win the game. And, sure happy we did the last couple times, and obviously some things that we can do better and especially on the offensive side of the ball from this last night, some things we can easily clean up, and that results in more points and more comfortable victories. But this is the NFL. It's the playoffs. It's tough. You got to go earn every single one of them.
Your second one of these. I know you guys want every week to be the same. Does this week feel different, though?
No. To me, to be honest with you, I'm just taking it as I normally do. How do I prepare to, go have a great walkthrough practice here on Wednesday, and then go home, do what I do before Thursday practice, and get ready to go for Thursday, Friday, Saturday, all the same. So we're not immune to understanding the circumstances and what the game means to the outside world until, whether or not we get to continue to keep playing football or not. But from a daily standpoint, we operate as normal and get ready to play.
Matthew, Sean has said multiple times that you guys were at your best on Sunday when you needed to be, or in the most important moments. And I think he's meaning play to play. But more specifically to you, I think since you've been here, you're 24-6 in December, January, February. In other words, the most critical parts of the year. How do you attribute that sort of success when you needed to be at your best in the critical points of the season? How's that evolved?
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate that and I understand that. I think quarterback wins is an interesting stat. It takes everybody. And there are certain games where, I don't play up to par, we win the game, or certain games where I feel like I play really well and we don't win the game. It doesn't always correlate with the quarterback. Obviously, I want to play as good as I possibly can, but I would equate that to our head coach leading the way, our team playing good football at the right time. Surely I'm doing my best part to try and play at a high level or lead the guys in the right way, find a way to win the football game. There's no question about that. But, I didn't win those games by myself. I didn't lose any of them by myself. We play as a team. We win as a team. We lose as a team. And, that's what I have to say about that, I guess.
Matthew, in the last couple of years, Seattle's defense has improved just drastically, right? So what do you see as the biggest challenge right now, and how they have grown over the past, let's say, even 2 seasons to be one of the best?
Yeah, I think they have great personnel when you look at it. Top to bottom, they've got depth. They've got, quote-unquote star power guys that are, really huge difference makers within games. And I think they're really well coached. The more time you get into a system, obviously, the better you can be. And those guys are doing a hell of a job. I think Ernest is playing at an all-time level and playing great in the middle. So, he's kind of running the show for those guys. And, their front's great. Secondary's great. You look at it, they're really well-rounded defense.
Sean, Seattle on camera and Sean's speech to you guys going into overtime. In the moment, how did what he said impact you?
Yeah, it was great. I missed just a little bit of that because I had to run out for the coin toss. I lost the end of it, but I got the gist of it at the beginning. And no, he's always been great at that kind of stuff, whether it be in that game, other games we've been a part of, maybe just the offense or the defense, just imposing, or just inciting some wisdom on us at the moment. Hey, let's just be where our feet are planted. Let's go out and play the rest of the game, whatever's left, and find a way to win the game. And he's a passionate leader, and you guys saw it there.
Matthew, Seattle likes to play a lot of lighter groupings, but Sean talked about how the versatility on that side of the ball makes it so that they can defend the run or the pass. Do you view their lighter groupings differently than you might view another teams?
Yeah, a little bit. I think they're able to build a bunch of structures, both in the back end and the fronts, with quote unquote nickel defense out there, and they love to be in that. They stay in that, a decent amount of the time. So it is a little bit different in the fact that they feel like they can, create different front and coverage structure issues with their grouping. Where a lot of teams, if you're getting nickel defense, you're just getting their nickel pass fronts or, some of those things. So they do a nice job of changing stuff up, yes.
Sean talked about Kyren rallying the sideline ahead of the 2-minute drill in Carolina. What has stood out to you about his presence on the team this year and in the postseason? Yeah,
he's a passionate guy. We all respect him for the work that he puts in, the way he plays the game, his attitude day in and day out. Obviously, it's a physical, tough position. And the way he comes to work every single day, we all appreciate that and respect that. So when he has words to say or shares what's on his mind or on his heart, we're always listening. So he's a great teammate. You guys just get to see small examples of that in some certain instances, but he's like that all the time.
What were your last memories of that NFC Championship game? So you go down 10 and you rally the back, and then Aaron Donald makes the play with the 6 at the end. Is there anything you learned in that game that you applied to players?
Yeah, they all shake out different, but it was a great battle. Obviously division opponents, which was, somewhat similar to this Sunday. But, that's another great defense we faced that day, fast, aggressive defense similar to the one that we're facing on Sunday. So, you got to go out there, still find a way to play aggressive, but also take what they're giving you, just like you do every single game. But that was a great memory. Hopefully make another good one on Sunday.
Welcome, sir.
How you doing?
Nice catch last game.
Appreciate it.
I've got to ask you, 4th NFC title game for you, right?
5th.
5th?
Yes.
Oh, okay. 5th NFC title game.
Mm-hmm.
No Super Bowls.
Yeah.
So
thanks
how
for the
big
reminder.
Is this baby? Not just another week, right?
It's not. I've been here quite a few times, and I think I made mention to you guys a few times, forgive me if I'm not smiling ear to ear after the first win or the second win. Just haven't been here so many times and understanding exactly what it takes to, get where we're ultimately trying to go. So it's obviously exciting to achieve, the minor goals along the way that you ultimately need to do to get where you want to be. But it just feels like almost like a mythical thing to me at this point. You do everything you can to get there, and it's been so hard and been working so hard at it. So we're close. We just got to finish it out.
Did you miss that last game up there against them?
Yeah.
There was a lot on the line for that game too. What do you remember about that game, on the sideline, and how much did it hurt to not be able to play against them the last time?
Yeah, I mean, it crushed me. Anytime if I'm in the game and I can't affect it, or if I'm not able to play in the game at all, it's just that helplessness, that type of feeling is not a good feeling as a receiver, especially one that has been relied on a lot, in the past to be able to put things together and ultimately get you where you want to be as a team. So just watching, it was tough, especially in the red zone, seeing us, kind of struggle the first couple drives there, getting points. And knowing what I've been able to do, just feeling like I could have changed that. So it's a great team. And obviously we did a great job on offense and put up some unbelievable numbers and all of that. But just, my presence out there, I always feel like I can help in, whether it's making a play or just affecting coverage or whatever it is. So it's exciting to be able to get another crack at it.
Davante, the NFL doesn't schedule teams to have 3 straight road games. It's really difficult to do that and get to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
What's the physical challenge, emotional challenge right now, knowing as physically and emotionally demanding as it's been the past 2 weeks?
I mean, that's just kind of been the story of our year. We've had, I don't think it's close as far as distance travel for us, compared to any other team in this league. So, correct me if I'm wrong, but we've been on the road and we've had to travel quite a bit. So, just basically everything that's happened to us this year has built us up for this point in our, in the season. So, the travel, whether it's having to be in more hotels than other people or, long travels, whatever it is, it's just created almost a tighter bond, and allowed us to kind of feel a little bit more like, the Baltimore deal, and then going out to London after that. We almost had a couple training camps, it feels like, throughout the season. So, I don't think I would have drawn it up that way, but it's worked out for us, and it's something that we found a way to just bond together and mend to a point where, we don't necessarily need to be at home in order to make it work.
Davante, you mentioned being here before, but you also saw life on the other side of the NFL. How much did that experience make you appreciate just this opportunity, let alone maybe closing it down?
Good to see you too, man. How you doing? Obviously, it's any time you go from, I started off with a great experience with the Packers and didn't have anything else to, compare it to. So you kind of, in a sense, take it for granted. I don't think I was taking it for granted, but, you go to a situation where you struggle a little bit more in Vegas, and, I was blessed to still have a lot of, great football there and a lot of good times. But in terms of winning and, playing meaningful games, obviously we weren't in that position. So being back in a position where you're with a great team and in a great situation, you definitely have a greater appreciation for, times like this for sure.
Most of the team is in the same boat as you in regards to just trying to make it to that first Super Bowl. How do you keep from pressing this week with so much at stake?
You just got to, be reminded by, the coaching staff. They do a good job of just reminding us to do our job. I think back to some of the things that Aaron has told me over the years. You probably heard me mention we don't need any Herculean efforts. That's a quote from him that kind of stood out to me from like 2016. Just thinking about, football is the most team sport that there is. So if you go out trying to be Superman every week, that's not necessarily what's needed in order to, complete the puzzle. So, for me, Matthew, whoever it is, it's just making sure we do our job, and if we take care of our 111th, then that should be enough with what we have in this on this team.
Speaking of Matthew, he has a great record since he's been here in December, January, and February. What have you seen from him the last several weeks in these kind of big pressure type of games, moments that suggest why he has such a great record this time of year?
Well, it's just part of his personality, I think. I've mentioned it so many times to where I feel like I'm getting pretty repetitive about just how cool he is and calm and poised, and that's what it takes to win games over time. Any game, but let alone over the course of your career and over the course of being in LA, it takes that type of poise and just locked inness, and he's got that.
Sean, earlier you talked about this being the Dallas group, but these last 2 playoff wins in particular on the road and the fashion you guys have won, is there anything else you can learn about this group and what you're capable of?
Just about the fight that we have. None of them have been easy. I think you can be a callous team and go out and start the playoffs just rocking everybody and come out and have that type of, that still, falls under the category of a callous team. But I think, having the gritty wins that we've had where, we start off quick a couple times and go through some, some times where maybe things get a little slower, but still find a way to win those games. And, whether it's offense, defense, us playing together, Kam Curl having the resiliency that he did to stay locked in and save us having to watch a field goal and, be in a situation like we did, at home against Seattle. that's just the type of the team that we are. And I think just having been through some of those moments gave us even more confidence individually and as a team.
Early in your career, when making a catch, how did you balance learning to keep the ball in and also not losing the benefit of being able to turn upfield?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think it's part of it is honestly, I think just how involved you've been, and how comfortable you are within any game. Because, just being honest, certain times if you're in a flow, like you may not even fully look it in, and you can, you just have a different type of feel and confidence. And then, the game or a situation like the other day where, obviously I didn't have as many touches, and then, I'm relied on at the end of the game to make a couple, big time grabs at the moment in that game. So, those are times where you got to look that one in, especially you bring in the elements and the weather and things like that. You just got to be, locked in at all moments just so you don't let any of them, slip by.
Davante, I was talking to Puka last week if you were ranking greatest receivers of all time, number one. I think that shows his respect he has for you and just, I guess, what he's learned from you this season. I know you've talked about a lot of your relationship. What is something you can share, like an anecdote between you guys that kind of defines your season together?
I mean, it's just like it was truly the dream situation for me to come here and have somebody like him to work with. So, I mean, for him to say that, I'm not surprised that he said that, because that's just the type of dude that he is. He talks to me like that too, which is, it's flattering, but it also makes me just want to pour more into him and, the rest of the receivers. So it's just been an all-around blessing being around really this whole room, but obviously Puka in particular. Having a dude that can come in and have the type of year that he has and still have the humility and to be as humble as what he is and continues to be. I mean, like I said, it's a dream to be on this team with this type of group, and blessed to have Puka as a young player in my room.